Welcome back to the Adjusted Perspective podcast here on YouTube. It's been a little while. We've taken a little leave of absence, but we are back. We're stronger than ever, and the power level is over 9,000.
Over 9,000. Almost hitting 10. Just like Dogecoin.
Ooh, very close to hitting.
A healthy 7.5 cents.
Ooh, gonna make some money. Not me though, considering the fact that I only put a measly 100 in there, so you know.
Hey, you got to spend money to make money. And
wait a minute. Yeah, I'm just looking at Dogecoin right now.
What's it up to?
It's 8.6.
8.6, dude. That's
8.7.
Bro, that's a new high.
Yo, it's the Super Bowl, and that is why.
Oh my god. Yo, Doge is up to almost 9 cents.
8.7, 8.6. Holy shit, this thing is going up.
Oh my god. Oh, I wish I didn't even take my shit out yesterday. I'm up $700 today. I made $700 today doing nothing.
Dude, it's fucking insane.
I know. Okay, so to our fans, we were going to have James in the studio this week chatting. Turns out he had to go down to Florida again. Whatever. So he's going to be down there for a little while. So he will not be in the office this week. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
Which was part of the whole plan. But, whatever. It is what it is. You have some recapping to do on your Cobra Kai journey.
Oh, yeah. So, I finished watching Cobra Kai last week or whatever it was. So I was telling you the other day, it was kind of a shame that we didn't get a session in for the podcast last week. Otherwise I would have talked about it then. I was like, god damn, I feel like the podcast journey is taking longer than my actual in real life journey. So so Cobra Kai. That's a good show.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it, dude.
Like I said, I've said it before on this. It's just I was addicted. I've never been addicted. I never understood the whole thing of binge watching a show. And this thing really got me, and I was just I was hooked. One episode after another, it was just I had to keep watching. And then there was a couple days that would go on that I hadn't watched it, and I felt guilty. I was I need to what am I doing? I've got nothing else better to do. Just watch it. And then finally blew through everything, and now it's done. And it became a thing where it was I was looking forward to specific times of the day. I'll be okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch a couple episodes. Now that it's over, I'm shit. What do I do with myself?
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out after I finished season 3. After season 2, after season 3, it's oh man, because it's just so good. I love getting to the next episode. There's been shows I've enjoyed binging, but Cobra Kai was just. I don't know if a show has ever been that easy to binge. Because even shows I love, it's it's an hour. I don't know. Do I want to commit to it right now? There's always I've never ever once on any episode was do I want to start an episode of Cobra Kai now? It was maybe should I start one? I do have to, but it's yeah. But I always wanted to just watch another episode. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just it also kind of coincided with having WandaVision was coming on. So then I was okay, if I'm not watching Cobra Kai, I can watch an episode of Wanda. But now it's just oh my god, I have to wait a week to watch another episode of that. So now I'm just in this downtime of what the fuck do I do? Anyway, I have one complaint about Cobra Kai though. Okay. So, you know how they've grounded the show in reality?
Yeah.
What the fuck happened at the end?
In terms of
let's just break into people's property, get on the grounds and then just break their whole fucking bay window in their kitchen.
Well,
It's just
again,
without a care, no consequence, no police, nothing. It's just we're juveniles and we're just gonna destroy everything so we can. I don't get it. I was just like,
so it's. I mean, you got to realize, like, it's L.A., right? Which is
it's a lawless country.
Well, I mean, think about like GTA 5, right? Los Santos is based on L.A., right? And this is the kind of stuff you'd see in GTA, just breaking in and shit kind of happening. So plus they're also under the influence of a very manipulative and influential father-like figure in Kreese, who pretty much they're either gonna like you got to realize like they're either gonna do what he says or they're not Cobra Kai. You know what I mean? So like a lot of these kids are very like that's all they have. Like that they only have Cobra Kai or not. And like perfect example is Hawk. But then he realizes like how quick he was replaced. That Kreese would have replaced him, and that's what really drives home that ultimate transition back to like realizing, hey, wait, these are my friends. These are the guys who would never leave my side, and here I am fighting for a place that I'm probably going to be thrown out of, with these douchebags in Cobra Kai. So anyway, with that said, like if Kreese said, I want you to burn LaRusso's house down and piss on his car, they would do it. You know what I mean? So like I think well, yeah.
So he's basically implementing this fear of if you don't do it, you're going to be replaced.
Yeah. Well, it's yes. I think that's like a subconscious byproduct of the whole no mercy. Like you don't hold back in any way. You go head on. So if I'm going to tell you to go do this, you don't have any hesitations about doing it because you just know that you're going to go 100%, right? You're not going to hold back. But in that does mean there's no opportunity for me to not go 100%. And then if you start thinking about, well, what happens if I don't go 100%? Well, Kreese is going to probably disown me and tell me to get the fuck out of here, which is exactly what happens to Hawk, more or less. Once Hawk starts to hesitate, we see Kreese go right to Kyler and the other guys, and that's when Hawk realizes like how easily he would be replaced and that there's no actual loyalty. Johnny would never turn his back on them. Danny would never turn his back on his students, Like, Kreese isn't about loyalty. He's just about pure evil and vengeance. And that's not who Hawk is. Hawk, as douchey as he got, he's such an understandable character. A high school kid who goes from being bullied with a cleft, who's suffering from depression, right? Other kids do drastic things. This kid got a little confidence, learned how to fight, and became a bit of an asshole and evolved into it, right? But it makes sense. It's not saying I would ever do it. Not saying that.
I feel like it came way too easily to him, like becoming this like asshole of a kid.
Because he left and then he came back the next day with the mohawk.
Yeah, you got to think like if this kid wasn't being bullied, like maybe this was what he wanted to be. Like he, I mean, like being bullied, like you're suppressing yourself, you're putting yourself in a shell, and you're just gonna hide, right? But like, if you weren't being bullied, like you'd probably be a more outgoing person, more like, and like becoming Hawk allowed him to experience like these things that like he would have if he wasn't being bullied. So like I guess like I mean yeah, like I said, like it seems like he took to it naturally, but like he basically gain that confidence of like if you're gonna fucking bully me, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And I guess that's why basically answering my own question, like why did it come to him so naturally? Like because
remember
him, right?
Remember the chat he had with Johnny? I think right before that when he didn't like Johnny's like tell him like you got to flip the switch. Like he was like you got to flip the script and like because I mean again if you look back to season 1, if you really look at it like. Around that time with Hawk, like there's a huge parallel between Johnny and Hawk. Like in the long-term things, you see similarities between Johnny and like Miguel, but in a shorter window, like Hawk is Johnny. He was this kid who was bullied, who found comfort and a home in the Cobra Kai dojo and a father figure in the sensei, right? Johnny found Cobra Kai, father figure in Kreese. So again, Johnny became a douche because that's all he knew. If Kreese said jump, he was going to jump. He, that's all he knew.
Mm-hmm.
So with Hawk, he never has this support system, and all of a sudden he finally has a sensei who says, A, I can teach you how to fight, and B, if you just flip the switch and flip the script, you could be this way. And that was what he needed. The way Kreese was to Johnny and got Johnny to go from this little puny twerp who got bullied to this, championship tough guy, it was kind of the same thing. But it's also, the show's not just about Hawk. So we couldn't really see that slow evolution.
Right.
I think it also just shows the influence that Johnny has. Johnny told him this, and the next day he came back with that additional confidence and took Johnny's words, So I think it does more for the relationship and what Johnny is to these kids than so much about the, man, he did it kind of quick. But again, it makes sense, like, because, like, he could have spent the rest of the 5. I like, though, that, yes, some of these characters progress a little quicker and some don't. Like Dimitri, he's a very slow progression, So I like that, though. Like, yeah, you could look at Hawk and just say, wow, he progressed kind of a little too quick. But no, I think for him, he progressed like like exactly what I would have wanted to see. I saw out of him. Dimitri, I'm glad he's taken longer. I'm glad it's a slower evolution. It's more believable with him because he is more. And I'm going to use terms in these podcasts. I don't mean to be whatever. I consider myself a nerd in different ways, but he's a little more of that nerdy, passive, not as eager like Hawk was, so it makes sense that he's been a little bit more held back. And then finally at the end of season 2, we see him physically defend himself. And in season 3, we see a little bit more from him. Miguel, his evolution has been, yes, he learned, but also the switching in characters that, between him and Robbie, that kind of perspective shift of who's right, who's wrong, who's really whatever here. But also then we also saw the metaphorical learning to walk again, and that, like, each of these characters has their own arc and progression that's happening in different ways. Like, we're kind of, like I said, we're seeing like that overall Johnny arc, but like we see like portion of like Johnny's arc from puny to, from puny twerp to bully in Hawk. We
Right.
see the overall, Johnny Daniel parallels we see between Miguel and Robbie. Like, Johnny and Danny, we see their arcs through all these kids, but like some are like whole arc representations, some are just smaller portions. Like, again, Hawk is that flip script version of, the aspect of Johnny where we're able to see him go from, a little kid to a bully. And so we just able to resonate because that's really what this show is about. It's about these progressions and of evolution of these characters. And so they just kind of take different segments of, I think, Danny and Johnny's evolution and parallel them with these kids rather than all the kids going through the same thing at the same time. They're all progressing at different levels, but it makes for just unique arcs for these characters. Like that's why, like, for me, like the whole, like, because somebody else brought up the whole him turning back to the good side, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
a little, that it was a little quick. But I mean, even that, I was like, to me, it makes sense. Like, I don't think it was quick. I mean, you also got to realize the show happens over. We binge it, so it seems quicker to us than it really is. This is taking place over months, right? But with that said, also, like, you saw, even when he broke Dimitri's arm, like, you saw those instances of, I
Like
don't
he
want to
didn't
do
want
this.
to.
Yeah, exactly. Hesitation. So it was already there. And all it took, like, but why was it? Because he had Kreese. He had that father figure, right, at this point, and that
Mm-hmm.
was it. And all it took, though, is to see Kyler and those other kids kind of take his place and see Kreese so easily replace him that it was easy for him to flip back. Because what else, unless if it didn't, it would have been him pandering more and more to Kreese, and it would have made his character really, really wimpy. Like, sir, what do you want? What do you want from, you know what I mean? He could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for his character, no, like, seeing his friends, that slow motion, like, everything just hit him. And he realizes, like, I don't have a place here anymore. Cobra Kai is not loyal. They want me because they simply want me as a mercenary to beat the shit out of my friends. If I'm not doing that, I'm worth nothing to them. So, like, everything crashing down, it really made sense. And personally, I thought it was just awesome of all times to see him flip in that scene with his old buddies. Like I'm actually getting chills just now talking about it. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I like really think like into like to really rationalize things, but to me, it does make sense. Like it does work.
Yeah, I think that's a great point though. Like the fact that that Netflix throws all these episodes up in one shot and you're allowed to just binge the entire thing in, a couple hours, maybe a day, maybe 2 days. So it breaks that illusion of the fact that like the time that's passing is you don't realize it. And I think like, if we actually had like, if Netflix actually released the episodes weekly or bi-weekly, like you'd have more time to like actually sit on a specific moment from an episode and let that linger and be like, how will this influence the next episode? So that then, something like Hawk, like you can see that progression of him and actually feel it, because now you're like, dude, like if that was me, like what would I do? How do I, maybe like I want to see him in like a couple weeks actually turn on everybody. That would be awesome. And then when it happens 2-3 episodes, then you're like, oh fucking Christ, there's a God after all.
Yeah, you're right. Like it would be able to sink in a little bit more.
Yeah,
and gain that traction rather than boom, 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 boom. Oh, it happened. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's why what's lost on me is the fact that like I'm like, oh, already, like he just broke the kid's arm, and see that's the problem.
Yeah. Like, so that right there, I think is honestly comes down to the releasing on Netflix is like, I think the writing is fine. I think the writing pacing is I personally, and I completely agree if you disagree. I mean, I completely understand if you disagree, but for me, I think the writing pacing is perfect, but the releasing pace is what, and I think that's probably true for a lot of shows too, like it's just because it happens in such a quick amount of time, like our brains can't really grasp that, oh, this has been over months, like this is like, even like relationships, like from beginning, like from point A to point B, it's like, oh wow, they're all in love, and it's like that happened really quick, but no, that happened over which should have been, like, think about it, most shows, a normal show, even 10 is 2.5 3 months, 10 weeks. So you have a week, like WandaVision. We spend the week talking and letting it sit in and going, okay, well, why did this happen? Why did this happen? So when the next episode happens, we're really like, and invested in whatever does happen. We've spent 5, 6, 7 prior weeks getting up to this point, digesting it, really building a not just a visual and cinematic point up until this, but also like in our minds, really understanding, digesting, comprehending, letting it sink in to get to that point.
Right. I mean, like, especially with WandaVision, like I've not even joking or lying. Like I've watched the last couple episodes. I've at least 3 times.
Okay.
And it's just because, I mean, like, it's not because I want to. It's like, I mean, like, I'm enjoying it, but like the first viewing is like for me. The second time it's like, hey, if my roommate wants to watch it, then I'm like, okay, like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it with you. Then I go to my friend's house and they're like, hey, we're gonna watch it. Okay, let's watch it. And then I have all these like different outlets of like being able to like talk to and like speculate like what's going to happen moving forward, or how does this happen, or how does this connect from the comics. And so you have this time to digest everything for in preparation for the next episode. Whereas this is just like, it's just flowing. It's just like 1 minute to the next, and then all of a sudden like a character will drop like, it's been a couple months, and I'm like, has it really? What? Okay.
Has it? It's been about 48 minutes for me.
Like if you actually look at it, like we're 3 seasons into Cobra Kai, and like that's 3 years, right? Like, but in reality, it's still 2018 for them,
Has it been full 3 years? Like, have they cycled through 3 like actual years of school?
No, because season 2 was all within the summer. Okay. And the last episode when Miguel falls, that's the first day of the next school year.
Okay. And then season 3 is
season
that school
3
year?
Is within that school year. I don't think we're at the end of that school year,
Okay, so then
But
it's
yeah,
so then it's like 2 years, like a year and a half, like kind of.
I would say like a year has passed by
Okay,
the
yeah,
end of season 3.
yeah, because it's the school year, the summer, and then into the next school year. So
Yeah.
okay,
Um,
but yeah, it's
and
been
like, so
3.
that's
Yeah,
gonna be odd though, right? Considering that, like, none of these actors are actually like 16, right? They're all in like their early 20s.
20s. Yeah.
So, except for that one kid, the bully, but he looks like he's 30. Um, but yeah, like this show's gonna go on. Like, we're not gonna get new episodes until 2022. Are you gonna do a
Wait.
time jump? Right, like the new episodes are not going to come until like next year, so you're going to have to do, at some point you're going to have to run into a time jump to catch up to the kids' ages,
Unless they've
recast everybody.
No, unless they've been filming, unless they've gotten some footage like already down, and then maybe they could do time jump later on. Like,
from what I heard, they were just like, they had like a Zoom meeting with the cast talking about season 4.
oh, okay, so yeah, they
so like at some point the show's gonna have to actually end.
No.
Or time skip.
Yeah, time skip, maybe. Well, I know they're planning on like other spin-offs too. Like their plan is to make this like quote an Avengers type expanded universe. I'm like,
okay,
that's pretty cool. Like I don't know what their overall vision is.
I mean,
but what they've done with this show,
one of their loose threads is I forgot her name, Aisha.
Oh yeah, that's right, because she moved away.
She moved. Well, no, she didn't move away. She went to private school because her parents were upset with the whole thing that was happening with the karate and the public school fiasco. Okay. So she went to private school. So that's what that excuses her for not being in season 3. I would suspect that she'd show up in season 4. But if they decided they want to do a spin-off, maybe whatever the private school, she causes this chaos to happen over there. And they do something else. Depends where she actually lives. Like, I would have imagined that like she lives in proximity to where they live.
Yeah. Well, I think so, because her and Sam have been. The thing is, her and Sam have been best friends since they were kids. So like, she's got to live right around there.
Yeah, right? And like,
have they been best friends since they were kids, or just best friends in high school?
I believe they were friends from like middle school or even elementary.
Yeah, it was a long time. Right?
Yeah, they had a long history. Yeah. So it doesn't actually make sense that like an entire school year would go by and she just you lose complete contact with her after you were trying to regain that like friendship. Now you're just like, oh, I guess we're not going to talk to Aisha at all because she moved to a private school. Like, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
So like, I would expect that like season 4 she'd come back. I mean, like, I was reading, like, if she was even present, it really wouldn't make too much sense for her, considering that she's one of the earliest Cobra Kai members, to want to defect anyway, to like kind of show that she's not 100% with the shit that's going down.
Gotcha. I just hope like they didn't just write her out of the show, that like she had some other engagements or whatever, and now she's just like not in the show anymore. Because at first I was like, oh, she's not there, and then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I hope they didn't just like, because there's always like a character, like when these shows go on like by 2, 3, there's always like somebody that goes missing and they get written out. So I hope that like I hope she does, like, to keep that character alive and the universe alive. Like I hate when people get written out or recasted and shit. And
right,
for me, the show has done a really good job of not doing any of that. Or even the people that are in season 1, like they bring back like like that homeless woman that's constantly messing with Johnny.
Yeah.
Like, I actually forgot about her until like, she's in season 3, and I was like, okay, whatever. No, I acknowledge this, or, but then I was rewatching with Alex, and like in the first episode, she's in the first episode when he's outside and Miguel gets beat up. Like, she's out there too, and like I was like, oh shit, she's been in the show the whole entire, and I like totally forgot that, because I took such a gap between 2 and 3. Like, that's why it faded. But yeah, so I mean, I could see them actually writing it so that because they probably just had so much going on that they couldn't do an arc for her. She just would have been maybe standing around. So
Right.
maybe like, okay, let's take her out so we could really focus on these, and then we'll bring her in because we have a good story for her. So maybe it is like a big picture thing, like you said, and then that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like either way, like as long as they do bring her back, like I don't buy that she's not like that they wouldn't be able to communicate with her anymore.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought maybe they wrote her out of the show because like
like,
or like
I hope not. Like
maybe
maybe she like is like under some like strict rules of like private school, she can't at all like make any communication, but like maybe like now that Johnny and Daniel's combined dojos is a thing, that now she could find her way back, and this is like the thing that she was like looking for, that like this beacon of hope that like she can finally come back to the dojo, or like her mother is comfortable with her going back to karate, and maybe they could even say that like Aisha just wasn't getting along with people in the private school, and like it just wasn't working out, and she really was fighting it, and in her reckless or her just she in this like whole idea of like her not wanting to be there, just got to the point where like maybe she curses out a nun or something, and and it's just like maybe she's learned some something, like become a little bit darker from her time in Cobra Kai, and that's why like she's just not fit for this private school, and ultimately it would be better if she just went back to public school and continued learning the righteous way through Miyagi Eagle Claw.
Yeah, Miyagi Eagle Fang.
Eagle Fang, yeah.
Eagle Fang. Eagles don't have fangs. Shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah.
So whatever ends up happening, like I'm on board. I told you last episode or so that I'm looking forward to them bringing back other characters from the other movies from Karate Kid, like
Hilary Swank's character.
Like that's possible, like you said.
It's very possible. Like everything that happened in this universe back in the 80s and 90s, like it exists, and being that she is on Netflix, she was a part of Netflix. Like
I feel like her character especially like is very similar to Daniel, right? Like she's the the daughter, like in all technicality, like if Daniel is Miyagi's son, she is the daughter, and how awesome would that be to like actually unite these characters, or like bring them together for the first time?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder in the story like if they've ever met. Like,
exactly.
Under Miyagi, like
we can see that.
I could easily see them been over Miyagi's house for dinner at this. I mean, obviously he maintained a relationship with Miyagi for the rest of his life, right there. So like he would have had to have met Hilary Swank's character. Like, I mean, it's only logical. I mean, if she kept any sort of relationship with Mr. Miyagi, like she would have had to have met Daniel. So like
100%, she would have had to. And if she didn't, like, I mean, like, I can't imagine that upon Miyagi's funeral, like, she didn't show up. Like, no, like, she had to.
Yeah. No, you're
They
absolutely
have
right.
to know her, and they're just not mentioning it yet because they're saving it for this big reveal in season 4.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right, dude. Because Kreese is so Kreese is obviously getting his, Terry, what's the dude name? Terry, I don't know, whatever he calls that guy at the end. So you're gonna have Kreese and another adult, right? Which I called because at some point you're gonna have Johnny and Danny against Kreese and his buddy, So like, so there's that. But now if another person gets involved on the Kreese side of things, like another adult with karate would be Hillary, the Hilary Swank's character.
Yeah.
Because like you can only have so much adults fighting kids. So like to keep it balanced, like it makes sense that Kreese brings one of his old military buddies, and now you have Danny and Johnny like fighting together, which would just be awesome to see.
I mean, but like just to even the odds, I mean, like why not even be that like Kreese called in this guy's his buddy? How do we know that his buddy doesn't have a whole fucking gang of like martial artists, or whatever? I mean, this is like the guy he trained. No, he was in Vietnam with.
Yeah.
Right. So like this guy owes him like this debt. Like maybe he brings
Terry
in
Silver,
more guys.
That's what it was. Terry Silver.
Terry Silver.
Oh, okay. So, but that dude's name is one of the names that they mention at when Johnny's trying to get Cobra Kai back in season 1, when Danny's on that panel and they don't want him competing in the All-State in the All Valley tournament. They list the owners, and it's John Kreese, Terry Silva, and somebody else. And he's like, "Oh, John Kreese is dead." Terry Silva, I think, is the guy he calls at the end. Is that the dude? So I haven't seen the original Karate Kid movies in so long. In the third one, remember, Danny goes to Cobra Kai. He joins Cobra Kai for a bit after he gets into the argument with Miyagi. It's a different guy running Cobra Kai at that point. I'm thinking that's the other guy. I'm thinking that's probably Terry Silva, because Kreese wasn't in the third one. So I'm thinking that guy, whoever the is there, is the one that will be.
That's
with
the
Kreese.
guy he had the long hair, right? Like the ponytail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And which also makes sense because he was the one training Danny at one point. So this is also going to be Danny against another former sensei, so which adds a whole nother level to the story and the narrative with this, which would be pretty cool.
That's interesting though, like that somebody else tried to run Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
and then Johnny comes in 30 years later and tries to restart Cobra Kai. So like, this thing just doesn't want to die. Like, I think Johnny needs to realize that it needs to be put down.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time now he's running a dojo and he's not Cobra Kai. He's Eagle Fang with Miyagi, which is just a whole deviation, which is awesome. Like, I think it's so great. But yeah, I think they're going to be the ones to finally put Cobra Kai down. Hopefully, if things go the way they hopefully go.
But that's interesting though, because the people who'd be putting it down are former students.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're both former. They're both former Cobra Kai students. To be the ones to put it down, that is really interesting. And Cobra Kai, man. It's I'm glad you enjoyed the journey. Definitely look forward to where it's going. I think, like, just one last thing is, I think the show, I think it does just a phenomenal job of handling so many different characters and arcs. Like, there's so many characters with fleshed out stories. Like there's like every character, with the exception of like the couple extras you see like in the Miyagi Do or whatever, like that, are like just like have no lines whatsoever.
Yeah.
Every character has some sort of like evolution, is written like with care, or like, like some are obviously more focused than others. You're Miguel, you're Robbie, you're Sam, but like, even the smaller ones, it's like every character is paid attention to by these writers. And so, like, I think that's another reason why, I mean, and so far, like I said, I think in my mind, at least, I'm able to rationalize like a lot of those little, things that you might say, oh, well, this or that. But I also think it's just, even if there were like some like whatever, I think for what they're managing to do with all these characters and all, like, I think they're doing a really solid job at maintaining a good pacing and sense of reality, while making interesting arcs for all these characters. It's just like, I feel like they're juggling so many different things, because all these characters have to get to a point where we want to see them, right? All these characters have some sort of like, okay, we want to see Miguel reach just some level of whatever. We want to see Robbie figure his shit out. We want to see, I guess, Sam get over her whatever. We want to see Dimitri become, a tougher version of himself, a more confident, version of himself. We want to see Hawk get to a place where he's, I guess mentally and emotionally comfortable with himself, still confident, but comfortable with who he is, and not has to be an asshole. We want to see, just like, I mean, obviously Johnny, Danny, we want to see, there's things we want to see for these characters, and I feel like no character is being neglected. Every character, the writers are very on top of like making sure every character has some sort of progression and isn't say stagnant. And I think that's just, I
Yeah,
think
you know
that's
what?
just great.
The fact that like it's not even a thought from my point of view, where it's just like I don't even notice like an issue with that, which goes to show that like the show is doing such a good job that like I'm not consciously being like, oh, why is this character like not being talked about or doing something. Like they're all involved, it's all there. Like you said, like there's the background characters, but like we know nothing, we don't give a shit, like there's no focus thrown on them suddenly,
Exactly.
and then suddenly taken away. So it just flows naturally, and like it's believable. It's like, these are kids doing their own thing that are, they're just here for the karate lessons, and then they're gonna go home, and they're maybe except for that last scene where suddenly everybody shows up and causes chaos, but they're also fodder, I guess, at that point. But everything else, like everything else besides all that,
I mean, all good. It's just like that little bit of filler just to add a little more aesthetic, more people around.
It's
but other
that,
than
like,
that,
there's more, exactly, more people that are there that, like, it's not just like them fighting the same 3 bad guys, like there's this whole like army, which all right.
But I mean, all the characters that we know and know a little bit about, there's some investment there, and there's like a payoff with each of them. I think like even the side characters. I forget their names, but the kid with the curly hair and the other kid, the black kid. The two of them, like, because they're like really good friends.
They
then,
came in.
They split because he joins the black one joins Miyagi-Do. And then the other kid, he sticks with Cobra Kai. But then, like, obviously, the merging the two, they're friends again. But even with them, like, I care about, like, their,
exactly.
They're a big part of, the one with Miyagi-Do, right? He gets attacked at his job, and like they get his back, and then the other kid, obviously, with Cobra Kai, like, there's he's very ingrained in Cobra Kai, and like, it's just going back to the whole, every character is very, I wish more writers took care of their characters and story like this, like certain things may slip, but I think they just do a really good job at saying, this is a story we want, this is what we want to build out of this, we want these characters to exist. And they do a great job at executing that and staying true to it. I mean, that's really all I could say at this point for my closing remarks. Is just, I think the writing is just so well taken care of.
100%. Yeah, it's just a fantastic show, and like I'm really glad we started the podcast so that like you actually referred this to me and like told me like to check it out. I definitely feel like foolish for like having said the comments that I said about it and be like, nah, I'm not gonna be interested. Part of it, not to, it was just like, maybe I'll get into it, maybe I won't, but like it's just like whatever. I'm glad I did. It was like actually a rewarding show. Like I feel, I don't know, like I guess I've always like kind of liked the martial arts aspect of like, just like karate stuff. And like I have like some history of having watched the Karate Kid movies. I have watched the Jackie Chan one, and I liked it. Like
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it could have been better, but like it was all right. Not like I hated it or anything.
Oh yeah, going on its own, so, it's a solid movie.
Yeah, like it's and exactly, and like I don't know if the show is going to ever acknowledge that movie exists in some way. I don't think it actually needs to at this point.
Yeah,
I'm more interested in seeing Hilary Swank getting pulled into
that's
this.
very plausible. Yeah, I mean that's
just because of the fact that like Miyagi is what.
And I mean,
But there
being
you
that this
go.
is the
So
Miyagi
like
verse, yeah, she obviously exists. So
she exists.
yeah, I
Um,
honestly, I I think we might see her in season 4, man. Like the way we even got to see what's her name, the blonde, my god,
I forgot her name, but
yeah, the
the
main
girlfriend.
yeah, yeah, the ex girlfriend,
Yeah.
like even her, and like I will be honest with you, that episode that she was in, that second to last episode, at first I was like, like when they were on the Ferris wheel and her and Johnny almost kiss, and like I was like,
Uh,
it was the first time in the show where I didn't like where things were at, and I was like, oh man, I hope this doesn't, like, because Johnny's finally getting his shit together. He's with Miguel's mom. He's finally like, and then like perfect timing that she's here, and like I
yeah.
thought, they were gonna make out. Miguel's mom was gonna catch it, and it was just gonna be a whole mess, and like that didn't happen. But at the same time, everything that happened with that, like it made sense. Like yeah, like Johnny's a real human being, right? He really likes Miguel's mom, and that totally exists. But what's her name literally came back at that point in time. He's been missing her for 30 years. He's a human being. He's with her after 30 years. Like, sure, things
Yeah.
just happened with Miguel's mom, but like for 30 years, he's finally with her.
Well,
I understand Johnny as a human being almost kiss it. Like it makes
yeah.
sense. It was organic, but at the same time, he didn't go down that route. He didn't make certain mistakes, and he didn't fall into that same route. Whatever brought him to where he's been at 40 something years old, drinking, and you know what I mean.
Right,
Like
right.
he's
But we don't know if there's gonna be consequences yet to that night.
well, I
She,
mean,
for all we know, season 4 might actually have her continuing to stick around, or something will come out that like
maybe.
Miguel's mom will find out about it and kind of be like, oh, you are a trash human, and there might be some tension there. We don't know. We could say, I mean, if it never comes out, then lucky on Johnny, right? But
Yeah.
like if something's gonna take him down a peg in season 4, that could cost it.
That could be it. I mean, I guess going into it, I had this like assumption in the back of my mind that like she's not going to be in the next season. I feel like that was it. She served
Yeah.
her purpose. She helped, like because she really was. She was just that missing link, that missing piece between
Mhm.
Danny and Johnny. Once she was like, "You guys need to end this," that was it. Like
Yeah,
she was that final
she
piece
is
to end the feud
Yeah, and bring them
and bring
together.
them together. So like to bring her in and create more drama with her would just open up like another route of stuff with her that I think
Yeah,
like her
is
storyline, her
unnecessary.
part is put to bed, and now
Yeah.
we can move forward with Johnny, and like now a whole new life and a whole new pretty
Yeah.
much has begun now that her
Right.
there's been closure with her. So anyway, if they pull her back in and it get messy,
I mean, like, it also wouldn't make sense to her journey, her life.
Yeah.
She only came back to LA because it was
see your
Christmas.
family, right? Yeah,
It was holiday to see your family. So yeah, at this point, there's no purpose, no, there's no real reason for her to stay in town. Her time there is just temporary.
Yeah, so I don't think we'll see her again. I mean, we may see her again. I just hope it's not in any real story changing capacity at this point, because I want Johnny to be with Miguel's mom. And I mean, unless Danny and his wife, the thing is, I could see Danny like and his wife having some like amicable split maybe down the road as like a business, or it like, look, like we're gonna go our separate ways, but you keep the business, and like we'll co-parent. Like I could see that like
a divorce.
Possibly, because in season 1 there's a scene when, remember Danny's mom, the original mom from the movies, she's over, and her and Danny's wife get into an argument. Like she makes a comment about Danny's wife's like cooking because she didn't cook or whatever, and they go back and forth, and I'm like, it's interesting that like you don't really see like mother-in-laws and like the wife like argue like that too much, not in a show that's like, I guess, positive. Like like Everybody Loves Raymond, it used to happen all the time, and like that's part of the dynamic, and it's funny. But with this, the way it happened, I was like, again, grounded in reality, I'm like, I feel like the mom doesn't necessarily maybe like her as his wife. Like maybe she has whatever. And then also knowing that, oh my god, what the hell is her name? Elizabeth Shue. But whatever the hell her name is in the show, in the Miyagi verse. knowing that she's out there and they both have like these unresolved feelings towards her, and seeing like these little bits with like Danny, and even like with the thing, like her referring to it, oh, you and your karate thing and this or that. I started thinking that like maybe there'll be like a split between them, and like that would open the door for like, but then they brought it back home, and I don't think that's the case, because even with the mom later in that episode, remember Sam takes him out and they're at like the mall or whatever, and when Danny gets home, the mom and his wife are like hanging out and they're laughing and everything's good. So I was like, okay,
I
that's
think
not
it's just like
necessarily
comedic
anything.
tension between a mother and the wife type thing.
It was just because like the tension was like pretty, like it was like, I don't know.
It's just your typical mother being a fucking, just an annoyance. I didn't take that like you did. And I definitely don't see the ex-girlfriend being a threat to any of these relationships. Especially with Danny. Like I could see it being on Johnny's end, but on Danny's end, not so much, because Danny also went to Tokyo and ran into forgot her name.
Yuki? No, Yuki was
whatever.
No,
but
anyway,
like whatever her name is. Ran into her from the second movie. So like that is the one that I was like, ooh man, this one's gonna cost him. But it didn't, actually. It just reunited him with the woman the little girl from the monsoon, who now owns Day.
Oh yeah, she's like the vice president or whatever for
Dayona,
whatever.
Right. So that was just lucky. It's just all like Miyagi just basically speaking through everybody, and like allowing Daniel to actually move forward in his life by gaining that scroll. Actually putting a feud down with that other guy, with the guy, like
settling another.
And that was also really touching, because even the guy is like, I wanted to kill myself, I wanted to die, and like I had to learn and move forward, and like how amazing is that? And then like the thing with that scroll, that's a technique. Or I forgot what it was. I don't know if Daniel actually did anything with that scroll. I don't remember. It happened so quickly, basically. But there was another thing with that, is that like if Daniel's gonna use that and become truly the Miyagi of these new students, right? I think whatever's in that scroll connects to the scrolls that he has on the wall, that Miyagi has. Remember, Miyagi tells him, this scroll says whatever it was. There's two rules of Miyagi. It was the first scroll, and then he says, well, what's on this scroll? And he goes, that scroll says follow that rule. Follow the rule from the first scroll. I forgot exactly, but I'm breaking whatever the quote was.
Okay.
I think whatever's hidden in this scroll helps connects to that second scroll, because Miyagi basically is like, just focus on this one. This scroll is not important. It basically is telling you follow number one. Whatever's in the new scroll that he just got is basically like an extension of whatever's written on number two, or a translation of what's written in number two, that teaches him the other half of Miyagi.
Okay. That would make sense too, especially since what he learned from the guy was like, because he's like, Danny knows all like self-defense. It was always defense. And then he kind of showed him that like, no, there's another side to Miyagi, which is our aggressive side, which he obviously uses side, and when he takes out Kreese at the end. So like, I think you're right. Yeah. And knowing Miyagi's attitude, it would probably be like, what the best offense is a good defense, right? So this would probably be the offensive part, whereas this is the defensive part. But all you need to know is master the defense. You don't need to worry about the offense. So
now, am I correct in remembering the scene where Miyagi in Karate Kid, doesn't he beat the shit out of Kreese, and then he's about to do that palm technique and like jab his face in, and then he grabs his nose and honks him?
Yeah, it's the end of the first one, right after they win the tournament, and then
I don't remember if in 2 or 3 if Miyagi ever actually does any crazy shit, but that was gonna be a fucking killing blow. and Kreese knew what it was, and that's why he just went and he honked his nose.
Yeah.
Miyagi definitely knows some shit, and he never taught it, but he did display, but never went through with any of those attacks. Yeah. And I think that's the key, was the fact that you don't need. I think the key for Miyagi himself was, I don't need the offensive techniques, because my defense is, I'm confident in my defense, but he also knows those attacks in case he ever needed that.
It's like,
but Daniel doesn't have. He never learned those offensive attacks. Yeah. He only knows the defensive. Now, you can be 100% confident in your defense, and Miyagi believes you never need this, so you'll never need to learn it.
It's almost like a chicken and the egg type way of, like, you won't need to know the offense if you have defense. But what if you did need the offense? Like,
exactly.
Just in case, then
and I think that's what's it's gonna reveal what the hidden offense of Miyagi-Do is, and Daniel's gonna learn it. Maybe Hilary Swank's character. I don't remember. I don't remember any of that stuff. Maybe there's stuff hints there.
There's probably gonna be things that Johnny's gonna train him, because remember, Johnny's more aggressive. Johnny knows a lot of more like aggressive, like.
Johnny's going to be able to help him unlock those manners and techniques.
I can't wait.
I'm telling you,
dynamic, dude. Like,
I'm so glad. Yeah, when I told you, I was like, my theory for where everything was headed was a combining of like the yin and yang of Johnny with Danny, and it basically has happened.
Yeah.
And 100%, like you said, I think that's going to allow Daniel to get into that side of Miyagi and learn these techniques, and he's going to be able to practice them and learn them with Johnny.
Yeah. And like you said, the yin and the yang, because they're both going to learn from each other. Like, Johnny can learn more patience and more of that. I mean, Johnny, I think out of everybody, Johnny's the most well-rounded. I think he's probably the best fighter. I think, he's obviously great at defense. He's good. He's just solid at fighting, but he can dish out those more aggressive blows and whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think there's wisdom in Miyagi, and that's what Danny can give. I think Danny will be able to teach a lot more wisdom to Johnny, and Johnny can help a lot more with the physical. I think like that's what Johnny needs, like I think the mental and emotional guidance that Danny has.
Well, that meditation that they do.
Exactly.
Balance,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Johnny needs to learn that.
Exactly, because Danny obviously has his life together in a certain way where Johnny does not, and that's what Johnny can learn. And the meditation, and Johnny's never had that. Kreese was never, sitting on trees and meditating.
Right.
If Johnny could tap into that, he's gonna get that part of his life more settled out. Whereas he can teach Danny, and Danny can become more of a just more an aggressive, but an overall better fighter. And that, dude, that's gonna be I love the moments in the last few seasons when you'd see them together, they bicker, and then, they're basically going to be like the odd couple for a while. But we're going to see them actually together a lot more in this coming season. And I'm stoked for it, dude. I think it's going to be hilarious. I think it's going to be funny, awesome, everything.
I wonder if they would do something where, like, it's All Valley, it's like under 18.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's an All Valley adult tournament that like Daniel and Johnny would become like competitors for, and get them back on the mat.
I could see that happening, like maybe in the last season, kind of like a Rocky 3. I don't know if you've ever seen Rocky 3, but at the end, because that's not okay. So here's an interesting thing. I don't know if you know, but the original director of Rocky 1, which won Best Picture, John G. Avildsen, won Best Director for Rocky 1. He also directed the entire Karate Kid trilogy.
Oh,
yeah, and you'll see similarities between Rocky and the Karate Kid. But with Rocky, Rocky fought Apollo Creed, lost by split decision, but almost borderline won in the first one. Second one, fought Apollo Creed again, won the title. In the third one, they actually become friends, and Apollo Creed trains Rocky, and he becomes his trainer. Former champion, is now training the guy who beat him. So that would be interesting too. You could see if like, but anyway, in the third one at the end of it, because the first one Apollo won, and the second one Rocky won, and at the end of Rocky 3, at the end of the movie, they're in a ring at his private gym or whatever, and they're kind of, you know, just joking around, talking shit. They're like, you know, let's go for one more, let's spar. And like, all right. And like the last words is just ding ding, and they're about to box, and you don't actually see it, but like, you know, they're about to have between the two of them their third match, and to see who actually wins. So I could see that being the case. So like maybe at the end, maybe the finale or whatever, it's like the two of them like for fun like are gonna like go at it, but like we never actually see. Or if we did, you know, maybe it'd be Johnny just because Danny won the first time around. But like either way, yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
I think if there's like this evolution between the two characters where they each learn from each other, I don't think that needs to be shown who wins. I think we can just leave it
I don't
to
think
like,
so either. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't want to
right down the middle.
Yeah, I would just like. I've gotten by that time. I will have gotten so much out of it, like between the relationship and everything, that yeah, I don't need to see who wins. I know who I'd probably want to see win maybe at that point, but like I don't know. Like I wouldn't need to see. I know they're both good. I know they've both earned their place and wherever they are at. You know,
I would be more comfortable in the fact that it's just a fight between the two of them. Right? It's not like for the audience. There's not like at a tournament or anything. It's just them in the dojo by themselves. The students have gone home and they're just gonna, you want to do this finally and like finally settle this? And then they're like, all right, let's go.
That's exactly how it is at the end of Rocky 3. It's just the two of them in the gym. They get in, they're like ding ding, and it like freeze frames and it cuts to the credits. So I could see it doing like that. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that would be. That would be a good way. Just finally end Cobra Kai's whole the whole series that way. Perfect. That would just excellent. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Now let's watch it.
Oh man. We have like high expect. We had like we like it's funny because we have all these predictions, but it's like so much what we want to see that like there's a very specific game that GTA 6 needs to be. There's like a very like specific fourth season that we need to see in Cobra Kai. Like this is how it has to happen. But no, I mean there's so many things like we want to see, and
But that's the thing, I don't want to set my expectations too high because then I'll be disappointed. And like I'm here for the journey more so than I am to get what I want out of it.
Yeah. I think it's with Cobra Kai, I think it's more like intuitive. Like I'm not so much like, again, from season 1, it was like I knew it had to get to that point where we'd see Danny and Johnny like as maybe not friends, but acquaintance, some level of evolution. Like I knew it was going to be this forever, you know, rivalry. You know, there was going to be something that was going to like, you know, and the same way you predicted it too. Like, so whereas not so much that like, oh, I predict like, and this is what I want to see, but I think it's like an intuitive kind of like, I feel that this is where it's going to go. Cause like, I feel like there's still things that surprise me in the way they do things, but I think like there's a way that like, I don't know, like I relate, like I can empathize with these characters and kind of feel them like, this is probably what's going to happen. Like, this is probably like, you know what I mean? So like, not so much that like, oh, I predict this and this better happen, but it's like, I feel like I'm in sync with like what the writers have in their general big picture, like what they want for I feel like what I want is what the writers want for these characters. You know, they want to see Johnny get his shit together and ultimately have an amicable relationship with Danny. They want to see, you know, Robbie eventually get his. So it's like I don't know exactly how this shit's gonna play out.
Yeah,
but I think like what I want to see happen is what the writers. What'd you say?
You have an idea for like where the characters will end up.
Exactly.
How do we get there?
Yeah. It's because again, it's like very grounded in realism. So I think there's a sense of like I don't know, you can kind of like sync mentally with a lot of these, you know, characters and you know, like what's gonna happen. Which I like. It's just so rewarding. Like it's so satiating. Like when some of this does play out, it's like it's not even like oh, I was right. It's like, oh, thank God. Yeah. Like, dude, when Johnny and Danny at the end, you know, bowed to each other and, were there as dual senses. Like that was such like again chills talking about it. Like that was such a like I had expected it, but like finally seeing it was still so just like I wanted this.
Yeah.
And the universe put it like this is what had to happen, and here it is. It's happening. It's this was meant to be. Like this chemistry was there, and so like I felt it, and you're right. Like it was inevitable that they would somehow conjoin, and you know I love this show.
All right, I feel comfortable here. If you wanna, yeah, we can end it. Leave this nice wrapped up package, just Cobra Kai. Yeah. So, all right. So we'll talk to you guys next week. We will see you then. Until then.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah. Have a great Super Bowl. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Want to play Parcheesi?